So, a trick for you that can absolutely make you break through plateaus and suddenly make it feel like you made a huge amount of progress, which is going to give you that psychological edge when it comes to really practicing and getting results. And the trick is to, instead of pulling back, which is the intuitive response to whatever might happen where you feel like, yeah, I'm not making progress, then the first thought is maybe what I'm doing is too hard, right? I might want to pull back and try something more easy, right? Or easier. But I suggest that you try doing the opposite instead. So that's why I'm playing this. I usually use this mostly in my beginner lessons here on YouTube. But I just, isn't it weird that we start on the hardest possible instrument, which is the nylon string acoustic with a ton of action, right? A lot of space between the strings on the fretboard. Oh, and with a wide fretboard, right? This has a more narrow fretboard and the strings are closer to the fretboard, but still it's steel strings and they got a lot of tension, right? Bending on this is a nightmare. And I have to push down towards the string a little bit harder in order to make the notes happen. So this is a harder choice. It's harder for me to do alternate picking, to do the phrasing, to do everything basically when I'm playing single note lines. So what if I was playing this for like say a couple of months, right? I didn't touch my electric. It got about the same neck, right? About the same. But the strings are just basically harder to play. And just before a gig, right? Let's say I have to do a gig in 2 months, and all I do is I practice everything on this instrument. When I get on stage and I pick up my electric, everything is gonna be easier because I got nickel wound, softer strings, right? They're closer to the fretboard. The bending is like so it's just an easier thing. And what we often do, as I said, when we encounter a challenge, is that we pull back and try something easier. That is not always the right way of going about it. Because if you take on something way harder, then the brain's gonna go, what? Seriously, right? I had a hard time doing alternate picking, so we switched to this instead, right? But after practicing alternate picking on an instrument like that for just a week, you'll go back to your electric guitar and you won't just be better because you just conquered something that was way harder, right? You just practiced something that was way harder. The weights you lifted was way heavier. And so now you jump to your old instrument and everything not only seems easier, it is easier because you just got some muscle from playing this one, right? It's like being in the gym. And instead of saying, okay, this weight is too heavy for me, then you just, you pile it on. You take an extra 20 or 40 kilos on top of it and you do only partial reps because that's all you can do. And that is a surefire way of getting stronger. That's such an accurate analogy. If you're in the gym and you're tired of lifting the same weights all the time, you do the full movement, right? Whatever it is, then try doubling the weight and just lifting it off the hooks, like, right? Without taking it all the way down. And you do that for a week, for 2 weeks, and you get as much movement as you can, but it's so heavy that then try switching, after a couple of weeks to your normal weight. And I promise you, it's gonna seem like a featherweight suddenly, right? So we use the same principle here. I did this over and over again whenever I encountered something that seemed impossible for me. I just took down my old cheap nylon string acoustic or the Western guitar and started practicing alternate picking on that instead. Now I'm even worse, right? But after doing that for a week or two, then try switching to your electric guitar and everything is gonna seem, so it gives you two things, right? You increase the weight so you get more muscle, quote unquote, in your brain, right? More, you actually force yourself to conquer an even greater challenge than the one that made you hopeless before, right? So that gives you muscles, that makes you better. But also, what happens is that once you return back to your instrument, it's like, oh yeah, I love this instrument. I love my electric guitar. I love my cheap Squire. It's amazing to play, right? So you get that mental, emotional boost as well. Now you feel good. You feel like you can conquer the world. So before you were frustrated, right? Hopeless, on a plateau, I can't do this. And then you just added more weight, right? And after a week of adding more weight, getting some more muscle, you return back to your instrument and you feel the opposite mental, emotional, surge that you did before, right? It's amazing. So please do this the next time you think, I can't do it. Just, shift to an instrument that gives you an even greater challenge with the same exercise or the same thing you're trying to do, right?